E-sesh. This is the Saturday show. I'm your host, Dammit Motherfucking Mane. And we got our guest, the man, the myth, the legend, that man right there, Sour Cat Jack, Greg Silverstein, the dude. Is it Stein or Steen? Can I say Steen?
Steen. It
Steen.
doesn't really matter. The whole world says it differently, so you're good.
They will.
Yeah.
But if you catch Sour Cat Jack on Instagram, you will always get all of these awesome stock tips and advisories from him himself. I'm sure he's always checking them all out. Like we have the pure cannabis ETF up right now, trading at 26 bucks that you had posted the other day, and you're like riding that wave, right?
Yeah, that one's good. Yeah, so that's the pure cannabis US ETF, I think. And the reason I pointed out and correct is specifically because it's US versus Canadian. So most people invest in the Canadian names. They're easily investable. They're on Robinhood. They're on the other apps that are pretty easy to use because their equity is in the US because it's legal in Canada. There's
Right.
no restrictions. So the banks will touch the money. They're not as happy to do it as they will like oil or something else,
But they'll do it.
but they'll do it. And so you can get those
Right.
like Tilray is a
Those
known
are
name.
those are
Canopy
like low hanging fruit as far as cannabis stocks go right
because
now.
they're Canada the market opportunity in Canada is very small. I mean, it's less than the population of the state of California.
Right.
And the smoker per user, per user per capita, we don't know that kind of data. But what we do know is it's less than the
Yes.
United States. We know, there's way more smokers in New York City than in Toronto. Fact.
Yeah, fact.
And I don't need any data to say fact.
Yeah.
100% confident.
Yeah.
So and we see that through sales data in Canada, but we also see that in what we know about New York. We know about LA. These cities smoke, but also they are very entrepreneurial in the industry. New York is a medical state that basically doesn't have flower, and they still are home to some of the biggest MSOs in the country.
Right.
And a lot of that is because of the banking relationships.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it because of the banks that are there, or what?
Getting to meetings pre-COVID is why New York City's real estate is so valuable.
Yeah.
It's because people have apartments that they don't live in, but they use when they go to meetings in the city. From LA, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Same thing in Jersey. There's a lot of people that live in Jersey that have an apartment in the city. I'm not talking about regular people. I'm talking about like rich people, but still, it marks up prices a lot.
Yeah,
And
because
so
when they rent these lofts or apartments or and whatnot, like in downtown near the Staples Center and all of that, people know that here on that side of town, we know that that's like where people don't even live there much time of the year, but that's so that they can have an address. It's almost like the PO box in like in those out of what do you call those shit offshore bank accounts with the
man, it's not that different. It's like just like a spot that exists for you when you need it. They probably don't even Airbnb it. They probably just like it's like
just leave it
anyway.
open. Yeah.
We could get into rich
we can get
people,
into that for
but
days.
so the bankers all want to be able to get to like a dozen meetings a day. Some days they don't do that, but there are big weeks or like you do conferences in the city and you can do all day, and then you have a hotel room or an apartment right outside the convention center.
True.
And so like you're seeing a lot of that with New York, Chicago, Toronto, Los Angeles. These are where the people are raising capital for the industry. Chicago's huge because it's right across the river, not the river, right across the border, and they have a ton of operators there too.
Yeah, I've seen that the businesses, seeing as how we're trying to be on this like global, business, thing that we're doing, where everybody is worldwide. Most companies are, working internationally. People are living, in different states. People are living in different countries, and so it's not like they have just one location. They have to be everywhere the money is. And speaking of being everywhere the money is, I know I brought you in here so we could talk about these stock tips, and you gave me a few stock tips, stocks to look up. The one that I wanted to check out first was the Green Thumb Industries, and I have that one pulled up right now. So we talked about this, skimmed on it a little bit yesterday, and I wanted you to elaborate some more on it if you could possibly. To especially when we were talking about the differences between if it's able to be purchased, here in America, or where you have to, I mean, easily, or whether you have to find it on a certain sites that are different, like what was the app that you? Well, let me let you go. Go ahead, man. This is Green Thumb
Yeah.
Industries.
Yeah, so GTI Green Thumb, big operator, darling on Wall Street right now, good free cash flow generation, meaning they make money and they make a lot of money compared to some of these guys who are, just getting on their feet in terms of their profitability.
Right,
They've been making money for a few quarters now. Um, Big in Chicago, big in Pennsylvania, getting big in Massachusetts, and then they're one of the big people in New Jersey, but it's still getting off its feet. So the reason I like them is the profitability, cash flow generation first and foremost. But they have a good footprint, and if you do some research on their operators, their team, they seem to be pretty decent and respectable folk. And that's not to say that other companies aren't as good as them. There probably are some that are better, but they give off a feeling of trust that I think people don't really value in investing as much as they should.
right.
Some people are willing to go wherever the money is, and that's smart sometimes. But when you're talking about something like cannabis, heavily regulated, the government wants to get you. We already know this. They want to
Right.
put you away for breaking the rules, whether it's a legit operator with a lot of licenses and a ton to lose, or some guy in their backyard with a few plants,
Yeah.
or everything in between.
The federal
So like,
government wants a piece of it, basically.
yeah. So if you're not following their rules, you will be in trouble. I don't care if it's legal
Oh yeah.
in New Jersey. Not packaged properly.
Yeah.
Not having it sealed away in the way they want it to be sealed away in your car or in your home. But also just like having it in places where you're not supposed to have it. I'm sure there'll still be people getting in trouble out here. So like GTI, again, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Illinois. They have licenses in California, a consumption lounge license as well. They haven't opened it yet, which I think is smart because you're seeing so much competition and we don't know where the chips are going to fall in California. We have no idea who will be the head honcho 2 years from now, 5 years from now.
It's still up in the air.
No idea. It's so up in the air. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of clout being used to sell product.
Right.
That might not have the same customer acquisition value is the best way to put it. 2 years from now, 5 years from now, we'll have to see, good brands could just be good brands. It could be like beer where everybody has a different thing they buy. People just buy something different each time. You don't really know where it'll look.
Right.
It could be Coca-Cola type of brand power. It might not.
Let's talk about investing in stocks such as this one, which is the Green Thumb. Which what's funny? I'm pulling it up right now, and when it does actually compare it to some of the other stocks that we were also looking at, which is like True Leaf, Cannabis, and Curaleaf.
So, like True Leaf, I feel like I could do an entire episode just on them because they're really interesting. They're just in Florida. So they're in 4 states, but they're really just in Florida. They have like 70 stores, 68 stores to open by year end. They're at like 64, 65. In terms of a business, they crush.
Right.
I haven't heard as good things about their flower products. It's mixed. I hear good things. I hear bad things. I hear, they're the only people with, anything consistent. So,
well, we're looking at them right now, and
they make money. They're like GTI. They make even more money than GTI because
they're showing that they are. They're showing
Florida,
at 25 right now, 25 bucks
so
a trade.
You wanna measure these stocks not as much based on the price to price, but based on price to earnings ratio should be shown. If it's not a profitable company, it might not have that metric.
Right.
That's how much you're willing to pay per cent of how much they make.
Right.
So each stock is going to be valued on their market cap. They're going to be valued on their price to earnings ratio. Then they're going to be valued on more complicated metrics like price to book. You always want to look at your EBITDAs. You always want to look at how I said EBITDA. I say EBITDA because of The Sopranos. Anyway, you
Showing the
always,
jersey.
yeah, dude. Shout out to Tony Sirico, Paulie Walnuts. Anyway, you always you always want to look at a stock based on the peers,
Right.
and instead of you would look at Apple compared to Microsoft or Amazon or Google, not Apple compared to Green Thumb.
Right, yeah, you can't do apples and oranges. You got to do apples and apples. That's why,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
like we
So
have
like
them.
in terms of these buying, so like Green Thumb, you can't buy on Robinhood right now.
Right.
It's not accessible. It's traded in Canada. Here, 1 second. The sun is murdering me. They trade in Canada, and so sorry about that.
It's all good.
And so what they do is you can like buy it on like a more sophisticated exchange.
Right.
Like
let's talk about those apps too, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's
quick.
why I wanted to go like E-Trade. Let's start with E-Trade.
Okay.
I mean, I'm rolling because
Yeah, no, man. It's good, man, because we got time. We chilling out. I really want to pull these things up. Let's talk about E-Trade because I'm totally new on this.
Yeah. And I assume most people who are trying to get, especially cannabis stocks, because people want to invest in stocks in general. People want to grow their wealth and get themselves in a place where they don't feel pressure. That's what like making money in the stock market is really about, is like getting to that place where you feel less pressure, more safety.
You feel like he's making these purchases of stocks.
Yeah, it's not
like I'm on a Cadillac dealership and you're trying to sell me every Cadillac out here.
No, but you got to be selective. You also want to be, aware that it is a little bit like buying a Cadillac, in that once you buy it, you kind of have to think about it like it's money spent, not money sitting there in a bank account. It's not in a bank account. It's in a stock.
And it can depreciate in value as soon as
it might go down too. It might go down. I bought I bought a bunch of DTI stock at $15, and then it went to 12. And I was sitting there like, I'm chilling now. It's at 19.5. Like, great move at 15 still, but that $12 like 2-week period hurt.
Yeah.
And that's how stocks can be. And sometimes maybe if it had gone to 8 or 6, like it was that in March when Corona got really serious. So like E-Trade is an app that I have an account with. You can buy most things with them. They're now owned by a bank. They just got acquired by, I believe, JP Morgan. I might be wrong, but I think it's JP Morgan.
Yep, they are.
Morgan Stanley. No, yes. So it was Morgan Stanley, not JP Morgan.
Yeah.
So they allow you to buy stuff that, you really can't buy in Robinhood. Robinhood only has American issues and like Adidas and Nintendo, like very, very large foreign issues. It's called a depository receipt, which is like Americans on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange hold a stock, and then you can buy it like kind of from them, but it's like still they own it. It's weird in principle to talk about, but it's like you can buy the stock in America without having to trade on a Japanese exchange for Nintendo.
Right.
Or the UK, one of the UK or EU exchanges.
So are they like buying shares for you and by proxy or something like that? Is that what it is?
Eventually, yeah. They're what's called the custodian. They hold the shares for you. Bitcoin stuff. People have gotten into that for Bitcoin. They'll hold the Bitcoin, and they'll charge you percentage. They don't necessarily charge you a percentage in the brokerage. Right. They'll charge you a commission fee. When you get into big trading numbers, some of the exchanges will maybe charge you a percentage. Like UBS is a sophisticated wealth management firm that's attached to a bank. They're one of the biggest wealth managers in the world, and they will do certain things for you, like E-Trade, but it's going to cost 10 times as much as E-Trade charges their fees. $75 a trade each way. Like, we're talking real money. Versus like E-Trade just cut their fees to 0 for American stocks, and they charge like $5 for the foreign issues.
Right.
They might charge a little more for some more sophisticated investments, but
For the
So like,
most
yeah,
part,
you buy you buy the GTI or the True Leaf stock through one of these big exchange. I don't even necessarily know if UBS will let you do it because I haven't tried it. I assume they will because they're a sophisticated brokerage. They should be able to.
Right.
I'm almost positive they can because of, they can do everything basically.
Right. Yeah. They
But
should be able to.
Robinhood is a small outfit. They do a lot of business. Robinhood's huge. Their brand, the amount of retail customers they have under like 40, but they still really only do American stocks.
Right.
They aren't set up for that. I reached out to them and basically said, why don't you let me buy some of these Canadian cannabis stocks? They're pretty hot in the streets. Like, let me buy them.
Right.
That's also to say if me or somebody else was able to convince Robinhood to start issuing on these names, the stocks would go through the roof.
Yeah, and then
because people would buy them.
Yeah,
I
that's what I'm
promise you,
saying.
people would buy them, but they can't buy them right now, and they're not going to spend all this effort to sign up to some different account. That's twice as much work for tax season. That's twice as many accounts to manage, different password. It's just more things.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I have multiple accounts, but that's because I'm a stock nerd psycho that like needs to own. I needed to get in on this, so I was like, "Where can I buy this?
Look at
how can I buy
it? Look, I think you talked about this before, or maybe it came up, but I remember Cresco Labs, and that's one of the other stocks that I see down here trading. But it's
so Cresco. It's funny. I actually tried their flower the other night. Okay, not super great, not super bad, but the packaging was fascinating because it was basically like a McCormick spice packaging. Like, you get the seasoning.
Yes.
And it has the plastic wrap on the top.
Yes.
It had that. And it has a humidity pack in the packaging as well.
That's dope.
Which I like because most places don't do that, especially out here.
That's dope. Actually, they're worried about the humidity and the level of moisture.
I mean, it was tested in June.
Yeah.
It was consumed in November. Yeah. So it better have a humidity pack if I'm going to deal with that amount of difference in shelf life.
Yeah.
So like, Cresco is an interesting company. The reason I bring up the packaging of the flower, they're a consumer packaged goods brand more than they are a cannabis operator. These companies in Denver and Boulder that, have one store and they grow the bomb flower and it's a great price and it's like relatively personalized in terms of like they either will like package it for you right on site or you'll pick it out and they'll co-package right on site. They do that in a few places. Those are like cannabis operators to me. A Cresco is more like a food product company, consumer packaged goods, packaging, the shelf life, the strategy for them is to get bought by like Pepsi eventually. So like, I mean, maybe not. Maybe they're trying to be the McDonald's or whatever. But Cresco has this production setup going on right now, at least in Mass. Maybe it's different in other states. I doubt it. I bet it's exactly the same.
Right.
They have a setup right now where they're looking like a food product more than anything else, which it is. It's agriculture.
Yeah,
it's a freshness. It's a freshness.
Yeah, you gotta have a freshness, like born on date. You gotta have all of that. The same thing, I think the same. I've been saying that, like, it should be brought to market. The same thing. The FDA should be doing this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They should be the one. Food and Drug Administration should be dealing with this, saying like, what the shelf life is on this shit.
With that, we need to make sure we put a ton of cannabis people in the FDA.
Yes,
that's part of it because
1000%.
I don't want to see the FDA today do it, but I would love to see like 1,500 cannabis professionals join the FDA in the next 2 years.
Yes.
And start to create best practices.
Yeah.
That would be because the FDA is like, and obviously that's what you're saying too. But what I'm saying is like the FDA is really good at their bureaucracy, not taking bribes from, and they do take bribes sometimes. Like see it in court. You see it in court.
You saw it in The Sopranos.
Yeah. But not even that, dude. I'm talking like billion shit, like people like that type of thing, like securities fraud.
Yeah,
Um,
because to me,
that
yeah, because to me, when you say bribing, it's just like it's like they got a fine behind the scenes that still allows them to operate. That's what
yeah,
bothers me so much about it. Even if they're paying fines, you're still allowing them to operate. They should have been shut the fuck down. If they're selling moldy weed out there, right? And let's just bring it into a situation where we can,
yeah,
look at this, rationalize it this way. Okay, if these motherfuckers said that every time they go to the shop, they go back and they get moldy bud from them, and they're like, what the fuck? It's not going to be like the Better Business Bureau that steps in, and said that these are complaints. It should be somebody from the FDA going to go check their labs out or check their spots out and say, hey, you guys got fungus, black mold, and shit all up in here. You can't
yeah.
operate this way and sell
Yeah.
weed out here.
We have people out here. Shout out to the Blacklist. They've been really good at doing that. They've been really good at creating, not just creating awareness on individuals and
Right.
on individual brands, but just creating awareness that it exists in the industry. There is such a
Right.
thing as bud rot. There
Right.
is such a thing as mold in your grow that you
Yeah.
will not
Powdery
see
mildew
or
and
deal
shit.
with. There are people doing it.
Pesticides.
There are people doing it wrong out here. Like, this exists. Please take notice. Like, shout out to them. I don't know if anybody else has done that the way they
No, I
have,
don't think so.
even a little bit.
Nah, nah, not
And
without making it look like just straight out hate. So,
yeah,
uh,
exactly, exactly. And so, because it's not targeted on one person, it's
no,
anybody that's fucking around.
yeah, you
It's
fucking
anybody that's
around,
playing
yeah,
games on customers. That's
yeah,
not what we want out here.
no,
So, and you're seeing some of these companies that do that. Like, you're not seeing a ton of it at the corporate level. I mean,
right.
some of them are like smaller corporate. I mean, they're still
Well,
corporate. They're still like the same type of corporate people, but it's like GTI is a $2.7 billion company.
yeah, I was
They're
gonna go back to
playing it
that.
pretty safe because they have a lot to lose. And, you know, you're trying to build brands in certain states that don't really have the traditional market the way California does. Like, they have it. They have packs that come into their state and people give it to them in sandwich bags.
Right.
But they don't have stores, and they don't have like trap brands.
Yeah.
They don't have these, and there are a few, but it's like
So
it's still
let me ask you this question about that is, do you believe that the stock price or the viability of the company can be seen by the stock price based on how good the product is? Is that something that you can see, because that means that, hey, people are buying this shit?
terrific question. I get that. Not just that question. I get that kind of like response when I talk about certain stocks a lot of like, yo, their flour is trash. Like, I don't care about this stock. Their flour is trash. Like, whose plug is this? Get them out of here. Like, so, I get that so much. I don't think the quality of the flour is as important as the numbers today. Today, there's a lot of people making a lot of money selling mids, corporate mids. Shout out to corporate mids. They make money.
Corporate mids out here. Oh,
yeah.
man.
Shout out to corporate mids.
I've reviewed some corporate mids and gotten some shame for it. For shame for you for talking about our corporate mids.
Yeah, yo, I you know what? Out here on the East Coast, we're happy to have it. So,
yeah.
Like, we've been getting mids for the last 30 years. So, like, what do we know?
Yeah, yeah. But so you say that it can't be. It's not that dependent on it, but it is a great indicator. Like, yo, they're in high end shops. People are going in there. Is that bloat, or is that?
I would say seeing the sales data coming out of each state, or seeing it coming out in there, like, we're not seeing them. So, like, when you look at earnings, the call, the report, the release, it'll break down the different line items by revenue. Media companies, it'll be like networks, it'll be studio, it'll be their other assets on another line. Apple, iPhones, Mac. cannabis companies haven't been breaking it out by state. They only break it out by those products. So you're not seeing like what Mass's business is, what New Jersey's business is.
Right.
But like the overall business is how I value it. Like, what's the revenue growth, profitability, what new states are they opening, what new stores are they opening, how are the new states correlating to those next quarters. So like New Jersey does half a million.
Right now. I wanted
GTI New Jersey, they do $500,000 a month in sales. I know that because they released that recently. And it's all Curaleaf products. Maybe now they're selling some Verano products, but it's not GTI yet. And they're still making $500,000 a month. So like, what does it matter if they're selling mids, if they're still making $500,000 a month?
Wow, that's so funny. Cause like I got Curaleaf right here too, trading at $10, and that's weird. Is because they own that, right?
Yeah.
So are you
Curaleaf doesn't own GTI. Curaleaf supplies GTI in New Jersey. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I mean is that if Curaleaf provides GTI to New Jersey, right? Or and Curaleaf, I'm sorry, GTI is doing good in New Jersey. Doesn't Curaleaf do better? Yeah,
because their wholesale business is performing.
Okay.
So a company will do in per store, they can. I mean, they don't really release this data individually. Sometimes they do if they have good metrics on specifics, but they usually only give extra stuff when it's good news. They don't really give extra stuff when it's not good. They give what they have to do legally usually.
Bare minimum. After they burn some books.
But like they got to make sure they do it by the book because there's so many lawsuits and securities. You know, there's always a new class action on these big names.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
You would see retail, which is like, you know, just the business dispensary, and then wholesale. So when a GTI product gets sold by a Rise store, Rise is their retail brand. You'll see, you know, both retail sales and wholesale.
Right.
If Rise sells a Curaleaf product, it's just a retail sale for Rise, and it's just a wholesale sale for Curaleaf. So that's how it really works in terms of the business side on brands doing wholesale. You know, and it can be the same for, you know, concentrates. Like right now, New Jersey, vertical integration, they do their own everything. They cultivate, they process, they retail. And you're kidding me. Wow. I just got the on thing and
guy with his
anyway
just a guy in his mower.
Just can't.
I might lose you on connection right there, man. Might lose him on connection, guys. There we go. Let's let him settle
anyway
back in. There we go.
Starting okay, so did you lose for a second?
Yeah, you starting to, the Wi-Fi
okay, so
wasn't reaching.
What I was saying. Okay. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So
I wanted to wait. Hold on.
You're gonna see GTI open. You're gonna see GTI open their cultivation wholesale business in New Jersey in the next few weeks, I believe.
Right.
Maybe a month. It's the same thing with all these other new guys. They're opening cultivation and retail on their own individual timetables. They're not connected because New Jersey has wholesale. So, you know, you're going to see companies bring wholesale to new stores before they open their own retail store in some states, maybe depending on the what's going on.
Wow.
And then you're going to see expansions on cultivations in certain states because they just don't have that many operators. So it's like, yo, you're already here, just double what you're doing. Go for it. Here's a license. That's what they did in Illinois. People got a second grow. They got twice as many retail stores.
Yeah. Wow. That's doubling up, really, officially.
So and that's why I talk about corporate cannabis, corporate mids. There's a lot of money in mids.
Yeah.
And the answer to it is because these governments are giving it to them.
Right.
It's just like the gold rush. I think we talked about it a little yesterday. The
Yeah, we
gold
did.
rush was so interesting historically because people were trying to, attain a mass wealth against corporate interests, gold mining outfits, big companies, individuals that were able to, murder enough people to become very powerful. It was pretty cutthroat back then.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying murdering people, like people got like killed in gold mining in the 1870s. Fact.
Well, yeah.
And so,
Facts.
like, it's not that different than cannabis. People are trying to like start a massive business. In some cases, with very little business experience, and they're going up against the biggest, baddest, smartest, richest people. And so like some people are going investing in themselves. They're a great grower. They're amazing at concentrates.
Right.
They're going to build a brand in a state like Colorado or California where you can do that. But if you're a big money outfit, you go to a vertical market where you need to have a lot of connections, clout, money.
Yeah.
I
You gotta
mean,
already be you already gotta already be integrated and have those partnerships with relationships
the
with these other
the
businesses.
the cultivation facility in Massachusetts is worth $8 million.
Really,
I read in one of the papers when I was doing some of my research the other day.
really.
$8 million grow. It has like nine. Uh, I can't remember because I'm not a grower. I don't have that kind of experience. But it has like nine rooms that can each hold 600 plants.
Really?
Nine. I think that's 3,600 rooms if I'm not mistaken.
That's
Or no.
a lot of fucking growing though.
Okay, I'm totally off. 5,400 plants, $8 million.
Right.
It's in the middle. I drove by it a few weeks ago. It's in the middle of Holyoke, Mass. It's just like, I mean, it's kind of, to me, it kind of looked like Newark.
Right.
It's just like everything's pretty run down, and they're just putting all the grows in this city that looks like nobody's paid attention to it in 30 years.
Right.
One of these old working class towns in Massachusetts.
I wanted to bring up some of the other stocks that we got that you were talking about. This is
They're they're mostly
IIPR. Can you
okay.
talk a little bit
Switching
about
gears
that
a
stock?
little. That's a good one. That's probably the best one because it's maybe the safest. In that it doesn't touch the plant. It rents its real estate to the plant and does a financing deal with them.
Yeah.
So anybody that touches the plant has banking restrictions. A processor, a grower, even some people that touch the cash.
Yeah.
If you ever go to a store that does credit cards or not credit cards, debit cards, there's
Yeah.
somebody in the middle of that transaction that you pay that charges you like an ATM. They
Yeah.
take their fee and they pay the operator in cash.
Right.
And so, that's a really big business for IIPR, especially with what happened politically. You'll see their stock did really well the last few days after the election because the banking bill is not going to get passed anytime soon. If the Senate is split and the Democrats can't, get the 51st vote through the vice president or however, if that can't be accomplished, that banking bill will never get passed. I don't care how much Joe Biden wants to sign that bill. Mitch McConnell's going to block that most likely, and that's not like off the cuff analysis. That's what Wall Street thinks.
Yeah.
It was indicated in the stock price. IIPR gives people a sale leaseback deal.
Yeah,
What
this
that
is actually
means,
trading at $152, man.
I bought it like 3 or 4 days before that for like $1.20.
This is 152. You bought it at 120?
Yeah, like 3 or 4 days before the election.
Man.
I mean, I owned it before and I traded it, but I was like, you know what? Well, I didn't put a ton of money in.
Right.
I said, you know what? I feel like this thing will be pretty solid after the election, one way or the other.
Right.
And I was kind of foolish because it did better than anybody. in
Yeah.
terms. I mean, it didn't do better than anybody in terms of its appreciation, but considering it pays a dividend and it's a lot safer than the others,
Yeah.
it did better than
Yeah.
almost anybody.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
safer, I would say.
Right. In the
Certainly,
last 6 months, yeah, it's been, yeah, it's, yeah, pretty much
but
going up and down.
even pre-COVID, the business is solid. It's like 99.3% of tenants pay their rent 100% each month.
Yeah.
You can't get better than that in real estate.
Wow.
And the only reason it's not 100% is because some operator in California is in receivership, meaning they couldn't pay their bills. They're in bankruptcy filing. So, you see them in receivership, like that's one out of their like 62, 65 pieces. So
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people might want to buy this one in particular.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to I don't want to recommend stocks. I'd like to talk
No.
about them,
Yeah.
but recommending is like, yo, you do your own research. You go.
Right.
I didn't tell you to buy the stock. I
No.
bought the stock personally.
Right. You just
So,
saying that this is the reason why stocks like these are good
going up.
purchases.
This
Not
is this is why other investors that are trying to get into cannabis are already buying them.
right.
It's
There
really
you go.
what.
There you go.
So, because I mean, look, like I love this stock, but like it is still risky. All of them are. It's the cannabis industry. It's illegal technically still.
But
Um,
to say more on what you said before, they don't touch the leaf.
they don't touch the leaf. They don't touch the leaf. So they will come to a company that needs money, or rather, the company will come to them most likely and say, "Hey, we just finished our cultivation facility. Let's talk about GTI again because they've done a lot of deals with them.
Okay.
Same thing with a few others, but GTI is a fan favorite for this deal. It's we just created a multi-million-dollar cultivation facility in Ohio.
Right.
They want to finance that and get money later on for an expansion.
It
Can
looks like
you buy?
I just saw an article. It says that
Yeah,
somebody
I'm
bought.
talking about a deal. I'm talking about a deal that just happened. If you want to pull up the press release, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay,
It
let me
says
see if I
79
can.
million.
Let me see.
It was like
I'll look at it.
$79 million from Control CEO disposed of 5.5 million subordinate voting shares.
Oh no, that was no. See, that was equity they sold on the market. They've issued. So when you buy and sell stocks,
Right.
somebody buys the stock from the company, a bank usually, and then they'll sell it to people like their customers
Right.
who can then sell it themselves. Buying stock, you're buying it from somebody else. You're usually not buying it from the company. But when the company does sell stock, because that's how it's originated in the first place, they sell it to people who sell it. It's middlemen.
Right.
I mean, nobody like me is going to be able to buy $25 million of stock from IIPR all at once. Here's a check. Because that's how they want to do it. They don't want 25,000 people to buy stock from them. They want to buy it, sell it to 5 people, and the 5 people can do that work and make money for that.
Yeah.
So they issued, I think, $300 million in the last 6 months. One at 50, one at 250.
Right.
And their stock's still going up because it's such a strong business.
Yeah.
When you usually sell stock, the stock goes down because you're diluting the stock. You're creating more shares. The same revenue is adjusted to more shares.
Yeah.
So when you do earnings per share, that division gets bigger. When you do dividends, that division gets bigger. So it's the same thing all across with creating more shares. And like people are like, well, they're diluting my stock. How is that legal? Like if you look when you buy stock, when you sign up for any of these securities, they can do all kinds of shit with votes for the board that you are not privy to, and you don't have enough stock for them to care even a little bit about what you have to say. I can't stress enough how little somebody else cares if you don't have like 1% of the company.
They don't give a damn.
They don't care at all.
Yeah.
And even 1% is not a lot, but it's enough that they have to kind of like pay attention to you.
Right.
So, and 1%, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars usually.
Yeah, exactly. We're not talking about a couple of bucks.
Yeah. So, like GTI did this Toledo, Ohio sale leaseback deal in February. So it was a $2.9 million deal excluding the transaction costs, and they're going to improve the property. They're going to, enhance production capacity. and IIPR is going to give them $4.3 million reimbursement when they spend the money to fix it up. IIPR gives it back to them. And so then IIPR is going to spend about $7.2 million in Toledo, Ohio with GTI.
Really?
And GTI also has deals with them for Danbury, Pennsylvania that happened last year. In addition, I think there's others, but this one only mentioned the Pennsylvania deal because it was recent. So basically, what that all means is
I'm looking at an article talking about their deals with Cresco and
yeah. So they do
Illinois.
deals with everybody. 60 something assets to date, I believe. I think it's 65, 63 maybe. It's a really good business. They buy the property, $7 million. We give them like $3 million that, you put up a cultivation. That's a few mil easy.
Right.
If it's a big one. I mean, I don't know about these 5 or 10,000 square feet ones in California because they're a dime a dozen, it seems, these days. But these big 100,000 square foot, 50,000, even 25,000 square feet, it's a big investment, especially in the East Coast where the real estate can be both difficult to develop and expensive and risky because you're doing these all on spec a lot of times with these licensing. Like at least signing the lease, you're doing it on spec in a lot of cases.
To the true sense of the word, speculation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you put stuff in the contract that you can break the lease pretty easily for money, but you still are doing it on spec. You still got to pay the rent each month until the license comes through, or at least pay what you agree to pay. You can maybe make it half the rent until it starts. But anyway, so like the land, like what I'm trying to say is like these real estate deals are a little bit more complicated than people might think, especially on the East Coast where it's just really not. It's called a limited license market, a competitive licensing program. That's where the money is right now. Because not only is the license valuable in its own right, but there's not many people that have the license. So your market share could be greater. Your first mover advantage is greater. Yeah. So if you can get an extra few $1 million out of your cultivation facility to invest in a new retail store in New Jersey or Ohio, where the market doesn't exist yet. I mean, New Jersey has less than 90,000 medical patients. Whoa. Florida added more than that in the last 9 months to their program.
I mean, there's people
who had it since 2012.
Wait, who?
Medical.
Oh yeah.
Florida's had it for like 2 years, and they have 450,000 people in that program. Wow. New Jersey could have 500,000 people in the program if anybody could join it.
Yeah. See,
I mean, Florida has a lot of old people. Anyway, I could go animated
about
for
ages on this, but look, this is I wanted to show. What I'm showing is what is this? 2018 all the way to 2020 on Green Thumb Industries. It's been a wild ride. It's been a very wild ride for a lot of people that have been on this ride. Now, but within the last 6 months, it's just been, an up and down thing, but it's going up and up and up. We're at almost 150% higher than it started in June. So, man, you should definitely be happy if you're investing in stocks like that. We also have IIPR up. That one's up. People are making way more money than they should while people are locked up. But
no facts. I mean, I like buying these stocks, but there is that part of it where it's like, I'm investing in these real estate plays for cannabis industry, and I definitely know people that are either in jail or were in jail. Yeah. And it's like, you're buying weed stocks. I remember when I was moving that pack. Not anymore. People are talking about that.
Pack. I just packed it in a little bit different.
Yeah, people are talking about it like that, and they should be. People that took risks to help everybody else.
Yes.
Definitely need to be recognized a little bit more than they're being, because it's a meme is cool, but CEO of GTI Ben Kovler's family came from bootleggers. I believe they're Jim Beam fortune. I could be wrong. I know it's liquor. I believe it's Jim Beam. very, very wealthy family. That's how you start a cannabis business on the East Coast is the family money. And they're talking about cannabis like it's bootlegging. But you know what? Al Capone of cannabis is definitely still in jail.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he
And
is.
Al Capone was persecuted in the 20s. He was a bad dude. He was a really bad dude. I'm like one of those dudes that loves mob movies,
Yeah.
so I know a lot about Al Capone and Lucky Luciano and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like those guys are not that different than the guys from NorCal that have been keeping the team fed for generations
Right.
at this point.
And you see, again, we keep going back to it when we talked about it yesterday. This is that black market that they keep allowing to exist because they want to have some type of regulation that's outside of what the people want.
Yeah,
Okay?
because if it was one thing to just make sure, like, I mean, so I'm looking for this bill on Saturday. I'm on Monday, New Jersey. I want to see batch testing in the bill.
Right.
I want to make sure that product is getting regularly tested, not
Yes.
tested once in a while and like, oh, as long as it doesn't look moldy, we're Gucci. Like, Massachusetts
Get
has
the
one of the
fuck
most
out of here.
aggressive and restrictive testing situations in the country.
Right.
It also takes longer to get product out because they only have 2 labs, as I'm told.
Right. Wow.
I want to see that for New Jersey, and it's the same thing for any other state that you need regulations. I like anybody who's saying we need to be unregulated, like 2004,
You're
like they're
wild.
just wrong.
You're wild.
We need regulations, we need testing, but we need them to be sensible. We need the taxes to be realistic.
Yes.
We need America to stop punishing people, because it's one thing to make it legal, but then when the legal system is unbelievably cumbersome,
crippling,
it's both for the consumer and the producer.
Yeah.
It's not helping anybody but the people that don't smoke.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean,
Making them feel
1000%.
better. It's making them feel better that they're no longer putting people in jail for weed.
Right.
But the people that actually use the product in some of these markets are really, really frustrated, and that's why I have my friends that are some of my friends don't smoke at all. Some of my friends are also big smokers.
Right.
They don't really want to access the traditional market. Even in Jersey, when it comes, people that live in the city, they're going to come across the bridge. They're talking about that on Wall Street a lot. I don't know if that demand is as great as they think it is, because I feel like these investors on the street think about weed like it's hard to get because it's illegal. Right. I mean, I don't have a phone number for New York City, like a delivery service, but I know I make a few phone calls and I get referred in 25 minutes.
Right, and somebody can bring you stuff.
That's New York City. I mean, it's a decriminalized market and it's a pretty robust market, but it's still 100% illegal.
Right. Wow.
And I mean, not criminal, but still illegal.
And so they still got to operate in a way that's like, we're not selling weed.
And New Jersey is going to be so interesting for all these stocks because New York is so weak on medical.
Right.
They have no flower. They have very few operators. Some of their biggest people are the corporate guys. There's one company in New York.
I'm sorry, man.
That's not corporate. There's one company in New York that's not corporate. That's what I wanted to say.
More company that's not corporate. We needed to move on to a couple of these other stocks. I know we got high off of this and got into these stock options, but we have also TerraSend. Can you talk to me about that company?
I'm a big fan of TerraSend, and I'm also a little critical of them as well. They're really more of a big pharma play. They're more of a big pharma play, and so TerraSend is really interesting because their CEO is like a pharma investor. He's made a lot of money. Not their CEO, their chairman has made a lot of money in pharma. His name is Jason Wild, interesting dude, and I was thinking about we'll see. I might be writing something about him, he's
trading almost.
He's a really good investor. He's a really smart guy. he knows how to make money in regulated industries like pharmaceuticals. And as much as I hate to think about big pharma in cannabis, it is very similar in a lot of respects, and that is one of the reasons why you're seeing a little bit of a battle between big pharma people and traditional cannabis consumers and operators. One of it is because they've pretty much kept weed illegal. I wouldn't say kept. I would say they've encouraged it to stay illegal through lobbying efforts.
Bottlenecking it so they can control it.
Just I mean, opiates lasted a few years longer than they maybe should
Yeah.
have, if they should have ever existed at all.
Fuck yeah.
And the same thing goes for some of these medications that are overprescribed. And I really believe in medication. I think pharmaceuticals are important when it's the right application. Really important. Some people don't agree with that. I try not to engage in those conversations, but I think pharmaceuticals are very important. And at the same time, I know that these companies could be doing way better by us.
Right.
And they just don't care at all.
Yeah.
And so, now they're trying to get into weed because it's like, well, opiate markets are drying up. And you're going to see the anxiety prescription market probably weaken a little bit. It might not go away the way opiates could, but it's definitely going to get a little weaker.
No, I can see it doing that. But at the same time, I can see these homeopathic, CBD, THC mixtures making a new thing. So, especially since the testing isn't all the way there, I'm thinking that within the next 2 years, we'll just see a lot more of that type of shit come up. And then we'll start saying, like, how much is effective as far as the percentage of ingredients that they could put in there legally and say that this is a THC or a CBD product. Which, I mean, right now they're like, yo, you can't have too much milligrams, but they can lie on the packaging. Even if there's no testing on it, it's not regulated right now.
Yeah, and the CBD products are weird.
Are those stocks that you look at, CBD stocks?
They're usually some of these stocks have exposure to CBD, but it's not a good business for investors right now because it's very up in the air. It's a lot. Think about it. Who do you know that wants to buy CBD versus a THC product? My answer is nobody. And so, like, even the people that I know that don't smoke aren't really interested in CBD the way I think investors think they are.
Yeah.
So I just try to stay away from it. It's not something that's like a red flag. Like if they have a CBD brand, I'm like, no, I can't look at this.
Yeah.
But they need to have a strong THC strategy, and they need to have dispensary licenses and cultivation license. Like, if I want to invest in a company, it needs to have a few things in terms of their profile of product, footprint, and management, finances. There's a lot of things that go into it, and some of it is just feeling. TerraSend, I wasn't as big on even a few weeks ago. And I just was doing more research on them, looking into things a little more, checking out a little bit more earnings, or going back to their earnings rather. And I just had a gut feeling that this was a good one. And dude, I'm crushing that one.
Right. Yeah,
more than the other ones. More than the other ones, for real.
Yeah,
that one.
It looks like it because even with what is it, 3 months ago? Yeah, 2 months ago. The way it's been coming up ever since then, we're talking about June till now. It's been going up steadily. You know what I'm saying? Steadily. Maybe it made a dip like the beginning of October, but like it's like yeah, wow, look at that ride.
Yeah, dude. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little distracted. There's a lot going on right here. Here, what? You know what? One second. No, I don't have to go. I just gotta change my location really quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna. I'm just looking at this wild ride. I think at the beginning of October they were trading at a little under a little over $4, and now they're at about $7.50. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Yeah,
That's something that it's like, yo, you were invested in that big time. You made the right fucking choice.
yeah, it was definitely a winner for sure. And the good thing about that company is they're small for what they're doing, but they're making profits
Right.
like the other ones.
Yeah.
That's very encouraging.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. Big time. Big time.
Um,
Let's look at
especially,
yeah. I wanted to. I didn't want to pressure you, but I want to move
no,
on
it's
to
all
another
good, dude.
stop.
It's all good.
Um,
It's all good. Sorry.
let's talk about GW Pharmaceuticals.
So that one is interesting in a different way, kind of like IIPR in that they're different than a traditional operator. They're based in the UK, I believe, and they're trying to make pharmaceuticals with cannabis. So if you think about a pharmaceutical, it's what's called an API, an active pharmaceutical ingredient. That's what's like in it. That's what makes it effective.
Right, the effective ingredient. That's what I was just talking about. Like we have to know what the
Exactly.
legal effective rate is, and that has to be defined by motherfuckers that know. It can't be no
Yeah,
saying
exactly.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I could put in 0.3% of THC and say that this is 100 milligrams. How the fuck does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So exactly. Why they're interesting is the pharma play. It's not as much like a FDA. We know what is in this cannabis type of thing. Is more of a like, how am I going to make an antidepressant with a cannabis
That's
derivative
dope.
API?
That's
That kind of thing.
dope.
How am I going to make? I would bet sleep medications to rival Ambien would
Yeah,
be there.
yeah,
I don't own this stock, not because I don't think it's a good company, dude. It went up 20% after the election. It
yeah.
was crushing this week.
Look,
But
look.
yeah, I
Come
think it
on,
had a
man.
20%. I
It
think it
went.
had a
It,
20% day last week.
yeah. What is it? Yeah. Last week. Yeah. Yeah.
I
You're
think on
right.
November 4th it had a 20%
Yeah.
day. Yeah,
It went from the third. The third. It was. Or the second. It was at 89, and the end of the third, it went to 108. So. You know what I'm saying? We were trading. I think it closed. It went at 104 or 108,
yeah.
107.
And where's it at now? Like a buck 20, a buck 10,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, it's at 114.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean
Man.
that's you could have traded just that on the election and cashed out and cleared like north of
Wow.
30%.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, it's like 26% over that
and I
cash.
didn't. I talked about trading the election on election day, but I didn't go hard talking about trading the election because, like, I mean, we got lucky in cannabis
Yeah.
with the 5 for 5. Technically 6 for 6, but five states changing their cannabis laws.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that might not have happened, dude. Montana wasn't a sure thing. They spent a lot of money there.
Wow.
Same thing with Arizona. Like Arizona, we didn't know Arizona was going to go blue. First time Arizona went blue in like almost 3 decades. I mean, they might not have passed legal cannabis. They did.
Right.
It's definitely a changing state, but we didn't know about that. I mean, we thought we definitely New Jersey. We knew New Jersey, but that was really it. And Mississippi was wild.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
these trades might have backfired. I
Right.
went heavy on cannabis for the election, but partly because I knew I was still concentrated in New Jersey. TerraSend and GTI and the IIPR all have big investments in New Jersey.
Right.
So I
You
knew
see them.
that would be probably safe regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I wasn't trying to tell people to go out and trade ETFs. I mean, the day of the election, I was watching the action and I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this MSO because I kind of, and dude, if you had followed that trade,
Yeah.
you would have crushed. But
Yeah.
like, following other people's trades is crazy. You got to
Yeah, it
know it
is.
yourself.
Yeah, you got to know it yourself. Yeah. And this is that's why I agree with you on a lot of this, man. I'm like minded on this, especially because I can see it in the cannabis industry. Like you said, the footprint. I can see like it has a company underneath it that they're selling that's doing good. It's not just even if it's a crap product. I see it everywhere. There's brand recognition. You know, the company is making headway as far as, what do you say, land ownership. They're taking up businesses. They're buying new you know, resources and stuff like that. That means that even the acquisitions mean like, yo, they're expanding. I can do good with this stock. So that's a good thing, and you could see it with that footprint. Um, what other stock we have? Advisory Share Plus Pure. Advisory shares.
What's the ticker?
A.
Is it MSOS?
Yep, MSOS.
Okay, yeah, that one is cool. For anybody with a Robinhood account, you definitely want to listen up for this. Robinhood allows you to trade this, even though there's the U.S. issues that aren't available.
Right.
So, like, 10% of this fund is GTI,
Yeah.
10% of this fund is IIPR, like 9% of this fund is TrueLeave, like 8 or 7 is TerraSend, like 5 or 6 is this company AYR that I'm looking into. They own Sierra in Massachusetts, if you know them, and then a few other brands that I'm not as familiar with. And then there's a bunch of others that are all U.S. Based in this fund. I believe like 89 or 84% of this fund is at the top 10 holdings. So like I just said, 10%, not like those are most of the fund is in these big MSOs. And the reason they do this is, one, you don't have to invest in any one of these. You can just buy this fund and then you're chilling with this fund.
Right.
It's in the cannabis stocks you want to own, and you don't have to manage it. You just put the money there. Maybe you add to it. Maybe I'm not sure how much the dividend is, but I think they pay something.
Yeah.
You maybe reinvest the dividends and just let your money ride for a few years.
Yeah.
Like you can do stuff with this MSO that I wouldn't recommend with the other individual names. Like you got to watch an individual name. You invest in GTI, like TrueLeave could be crushing, TerraSend could be crushing, GTI could have just had a massive mold outbreak in their facility. Like same thing with any of these others. Like you don't know, and obviously they're a pretty good operator. I've tried their product a lot. I'm a big fan. It's one of the reasons I started looking into the stock. Was I was like, these guys seem to be pretty solid on all fronts.
Yeah.
You know, their branding, their consistency. You know, they seem to have a good footprint. Like, let's look at the stock.
Right. Boom.
But so like, and that's the same with all these others. I wouldn't base it on quality, but you don't really want to put a ton of money in a company that has shit quality unless you're really planning a strategy. Like, I'm going to trade this and sell it after this date.
Only because I see them maybe, you know, bloating their shit, and I can see them going up and then going back down flash.
Like, and I actually made this mistake. I had shares in Curaleaf at 7. And I sold it because I tried their product in mass. I tried their select cart, and I was like, yo, this is some fugazi ass cart. It wasn't even that bad. It was just way, I knew if I'd spent $5 more at the store. No, it wasn't even, it's all overpriced in Massachusetts.
Yeah, of course.
If I had spent $5 more at the other store down the street, I would have walked away with a good cart and not this. That's how I felt. So I sold the stock after that. It's up over 30-something% since I sold it. So who cares about quality sometimes?
Yeah. Who cares?
And that's not going to be forever. And people talk about like burner negatively with cookies. Like every state's different. Some states are good. Some batches are a lot better than other batches.
Right.
Dude, when Cookies goes public, I'm buying Cookie stock. I don't care what people say. He's a good operator and a good marketer. And I know he cares more than most of these other people.
Yeah, he does, and especially about his product and his
reputation, all of it, dude.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to be talked in the streets poorly.
Yeah, let's talk about what is this ETF?
The other one, so the MSO is an ETF too.
Oh, MJ.
They're both ETF, electronically traded fund. It's basically like a mutual fund, but usually what they do is they make them sector specific.
Right.
So like tech sector or the cannabis sector, or whatever. And a lot of these companies are MSOs, but they a lot of these are MSOs, but this other one, so MSO is American. multi-state operator.
Right.
An LP is a Canadian licensed producer. I might be wrong on the LP. I'm like 99% sure it's licensed producer. And so this other ETF, this MJ ETF, is the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not MSO. MSOS is MSOs, American. MJ is mostly Canadians.
Right.
So like Tilray, and Canopy Growth, and Hexco, and all these other guys that are all, the well-known cannabis stocks that went, berserk a few years ago and then settled back down to earth.
Yeah.
And like these Canadian names, the reason I bring them up is you can invest in them. This MJ you can invest in for Canadian and international exposure. It's just another vehicle to invest in.
Okay.
I mean, what's interesting about this one too is I think Robinhood lets you trade the options, which is something so options and stocks are a little different. Options are more time and price based. It's kind of like a betting card on a stock more than it's like owning the stock. Like you can't buy like the over under on the Giants this weekend, but you can like buy the over under, so to speak, on Apple. And it's not the over under, it's its own like thing, but it's kind of the same thing. It expires. It could be worth a lot more money than you paid for it. It could be worth zero after a certain date. You can trade the options on MJ. So MJ, like you could have traded the November race on MJ, and you buy the options like 2 weeks before the strike date or 3 weeks before the strike date. And maybe if you see the price dip, you buy more, or you sell it all because you're scared.
Right.
And
that's how these motherfuckers are winning, man. Damn, I gotta dip into this.
There's all kinds. So like, dude, you can use options to what's called lever up, leverage, essentially borrowing money or using money in a more risky fashion to potentially make more money.
Yeah.
But then again, when you buy options, it could expire. I only trade options a little bit. I try not to because it's kind of like gambling.
Yeah.
So people say the stock market is like gambling. They're wrong. Trading options is gambling. It's literally gambling.
Really gambling.
And I mean, there's reasons they exist for like security hedging, different risk. That's another story.
Yeah.
But
I hate to look, man. Yeah. I hate to cut you off. We're getting kind of long.
No, definitely
in the show, but I wanted to wrap up, man, with a promotion for the next episode when I can have you back on. We're trying to talk about Wednesday, right? Wednesday.
Yeah, so that sounds good.
Wednesday, we want to be back here Wednesday to talk to my man Sour Cat Jack, aka Greg the Man. Yeah, come on, man. Moral Most High is up in here, man. Shout out to that dude over here. Thank you guys for tuning in. But we're going to be back here live on Wednesday. Did we lock in 420 or 710? I forgot. I think 420. Yeah, 420.
Yeah, 420 PST.
Yeah. 420 Pacific Standard Time. Check in on the 420 E-sesh here live. We're going to get deep up into at least a recap of what we were just looking at and maybe some new developments, seeing as how things are legalizing in a lot of these states, which is what you guys should always be paying attention to.
Yeah, we might see a new bill in New Jersey. Hopefully, they're talking about moving quickly in my home state. So, I'm hoping to make a rec purchase by the end of the year, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, dude, Michigan went quickly.
Yeah.
Michigan went quickly. And New Jersey needs that money, man. We're broke boys right now.
Yeah, they say we all need it right now, man. But thank you guys for coming through. Thank you, my man. I really appreciate this, Greg. Let's go do this again. I really want to get this done. Every Wednesday, you guys can tune in. We'll try and do these pot stocks and shares, with my man, Sour Cat Jack, a.k.a. the dude with the cap on. Let's go. All right, we out here, man. I will check in with you guys a little bit later. Damn it, I'm out. I will check in at 7:10 right here on the 420. Oh, 420 and 710. I got to do both of those again tonight. I forgot. I thought that it was 420 already. But tune in tonight, 420 and 710. I'll be back.
you.
All right.
Yo.
No. You good.
All right, yo.
You good.